Hello. I am interested in the field of athletic training. Not exactly sure where at, so I took this opportunity to kind of explore the options and interview my high school athletic trainer, Brent, at David Douglas High School. And he he's been there for about 6 years now. I figured I kind of want to go back to where I wanted to be an athletic trainer, where I kind of got the idea. I got really close to him when I tore my MCL in junior year, and I thought that, hey, maybe if I go back to where I'm comfortable, I can get better at understanding of what it's like there and not be so closed-minded about it, because I've kind of really thought that wasn't for me in terms of where I want to exactly go with it. But this interview kind of opened it up a little bit. Still not exactly sure if I want to go to high school for it. But this interview allowed me to get me more of what it's like. So I asked him what his typical day was like at high school. And because he's a professor now as well, it's kind of a little different. But he said that, in the mornings it's more of the academic side of, being professor duties, like scheduling classes, making sure that classes are, happening, emailing students, scheduling when papers are due or tests are due, grading things. In the afternoons, more athletic training side of, it's busy with the care at the high school, whether it's game days or practice days. And obviously the game days are a little more busier because, there's more attention to make sure you're not going to get injured, and it's, with the other team, you're not exactly know what to expect, so making sure they're extra prepared. And it can also be busier when there's two games, because on Thursday sometimes JV plays, and the boys or girls varsity teams play later. And he says it kind of get chaotic, but making sure you're able to see the patients and understand them and figure out what's going on, and or making sure just to make sure that the already injured athletes are doing what they need to do to heal up and stuff like that. He says it can be kind of different from college in the aspect that you have less staff, you have less equipment to help the athletes, and usually a lot of the athletes in high school kind of are nitty picky in a way. They're like every little thing. To them, it seems like the end of the world. He put it as. So, whereas college, I've noticed being an athletic trainer room that usually it's something more than just, oh, it's bothering me for a couple minutes, I should go see it, where it's actually bothering me for a while. But yeah, he says it can be different, but also really the same, which kind of makes me wonder a little bit. But I asked him what the most challenging part of it is, and he said that, trying to make sure you see all the patients and understand what's going on, but doing it in a timely manner where you're able to see everyone, even whether it's 3 people that day or 45 people, making sure you give them the same treatment time in a way, meaning that, like, even if their injury is more severe than another person's, making sure you still have that connection with them and giving them the same kind of attention. Also trying to fit that other stuff with the professor side of it as well. That may not be every athletic trainer, but in his aspect, that's a challenge he has. But also making sure, going back to the athlete thing, that they're getting the proper care and getting healthier, but in a way that makes sure that they are getting the same treatment time as someone else, because he doesn't have the staff that like colleges do, and so paying attention to athletes, like, I mean, it's obviously not going to be the exact same for every treatment time for different athletes, because someone with a torn ACL just out of surgery is going to be a lot different than someone who's maybe just has a little muscle spasm or something and they just need some tool work or something. But it's not going to be the same treatment time exactly, but giving them that same attention as you would any other patient. Another challenge, he said, was trying to keep in touch with the coaches and parents with how their kid is doing. He's trying to find a way to an electronic device, that way like it's updating the progress of the students and it's just sent out to the coaches, at least, maybe not necessarily parents, but making sure the coaches more understand what's going on with the progress is, because progress of a sprained ankle compared to a torn ligament is going to be a lot different time period, and making sure that coaches are up to date and stuff like that, because coaches can be needing the aspect of like, oh, when's my athlete coming back? Oh, they should be back by now, but they don't exactly necessarily know that. But with having something like that, it'll help a lot, but that's in the progress, so it's not as helpful as he'd like it to be, but he's trying to get that going to help everybody, more or less, whether it's athletes, students, himself, parents, stuff like that. With challenges, there's also going to be sacrifices that I know. I just wanted to see, like, for his aspect of what the sacrifices he needs to make in terms of the high school side of it. And it's basically, he said in a general statement that you're going to sacrifice your weeknights, basically from about mid-August to about late May, early June, whether it's practices, from 3 to 7, or games, especially football games. You're there from basically after school until maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. So, especially when he added a little joke in there that, like, Friday night date nights for when you just have a kid that parents like to do, you're probably not going to have those on Friday nights because of stuff like that. So, and that's one thing he found challenging as well, trying to balance family time and just time in general, especially since he just had a kid a couple months ago. So trying to spend time with the little one, but also making sure you're not taking too much time off work and still being at work as much as he needs to be. And there's really no set schedule, so he thinks in a way that you're sacrificing, a routine, in the sense that, like, going to the gym, activities, family time, just personal care, and that's going to be a big thing for me, is trying to balance personal care, because I'm really big in that. He also thought, along with that, not eating well, making sure your meal plan is definitely a suggestion he mentioned, because it's really easy to fall in trap. Oh, on the way home later at night, I'll just pick up some Taco Bell or Burger King, and it's really easy to do that. But if you meal prep, it makes it easier to just take it with you, heat it up, and you're good to go. Because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he has a microwave in that small training room, so he's gotten in that habit, which has really helped him. Which for me, I don't think it's going to be as big a problem, because throughout my high school career especially, my mom did a lot of meal prep. She'd spend hours for us because, she worked during the day, and then she was a personal trainer in the evening, so she wasn't there to make food. I was an athlete, my sister was an athlete, so it made it really hard to have meals prepped, and by the time we got home, we didn't really want to do it, and that's a lot of people's problems. So she spent, hours in the kitchen on Sunday making food for the week, which I was very appreciative because it made things easier. But I guess later on will be my turn, and hopefully I can be able to do that, because that could be a challenge. In his opinion, when I asked him about the advantages and disadvantages of this career, advantages to him were that in high school you have a lot of variety of injuries is good early on, especially when you're in the clinical rotation, because you want to see, in the fall you'll see, lower region, like, with soccer, football. Football can go either way, but a lot of it's TCs that a lot of lower stuff, and cross country and stuff like that. You'll see, knees, ankles, stuff like that. And then, in the spring you'll have a lot of upper stuff, with softball and baseball, tennis, and some track and field, with throwing and stuff like that. So having that early high school experience can help get more familiar with certain injuries if you're struggling in a certain area. Like if you were internship and you're really struggling with injuries in the arms, going in the spring to a high school might really be good with softball and tennis and stuff, and baseball. So he thought that was really good. One of the bigger things he really found rewarding, especially when he found out he wanted to be an athletic trainer, was it's really rewarding to see an athlete go through the process and be able to go back to playing, or be able to support them through it out, whether it's 3 weeks or 6 months, he was able to follow along and see the athlete progressively get better. And especially with athletes that really love playing and have a passion for it, and when they get injured, they get super, like, I wouldn't say depressed, but very down on themselves and not as happy because they aren't able to play the sport they love. So having him see them get happy again when they get back on that field or the court, or the track, he felt it really rewarding, and that's kind of why I want to do it, because I want to be the rehab part of it, seeing him go back on that field, see him go back on the pitch or whatever it may be. It's just, to me, it looks really rewarding. For example, in watching one of the guys from the men's soccer team, he tore his ACL, I think about a month ago. He had surgery like 3 weeks ago, I think. And so I've kind of seen him progress a little bit. It's kind of cool watching him be able to, he's almost able to walk off crutches now, which is really good. But I thought that was really rewarding to be able to watch that. Disadvantages, he said, were, finding time to balance family and work and other activities, especially with a newborn. That could be really hard, I imagine. So I keep an eye on that for when I want to start a family, because that could be kind of crazy. And another thing he pointed out, which I didn't even think about, which kind of made me think more later on in the day, is that, like, you're not really recognized in this job. So if you are a person that, like, if you do something like, hey, I did this, I should get recognized, this wouldn't be for you, because you're not really recognized in the sense of, like, because this isn't really seen as, like, a, I guess, really big profession right now, that no one really, puts us in the spot like, hey, look what they're doing, kind of thing. So, I mean, I've seen, like, students thank their athletic trainers, especially in the athletic training room here at Concordia, but it's not really recognized in the bigger aspect, and not really thanked in the terms, especially, like, I've noticed he said that he noticed that PTs are hard to work with ATs, because PTs, he said, kind of see as the superior, and that they can do more and stuff like that, which necessarily is true in some aspects, but not all of it. So he thinks that if you are fine with not getting recognized of what you do all the time, then this would be so bad. But if you're not that way, this wouldn't be for you. Also, that going on along the lines that he brought up, that people or parents don't really see us as, like, certified people that went through school for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was, and that we're just more like a specialized EMT, he says, in, like, sports, or just someone with extra special training. So it's kind of hard to, again, be recognized for that kind of stuff, because they're like, oh, you're just, someone random or something like that, and, you just help my student, oh, well, or you help my daughter or son be better, but they don't really know that we've gone through years of schooling and become certified and took this big old test to become certified. But he thinks that over time that's going to get better, and that won't be maybe not seen as a great old PT, but a person who went through schooling and got certified to do what they do. Which brings me to another point that I wanted to kind of figure out, was, like, how this field is growing in a way, because I know right now it's not really seen in a big old light, in the aspect of, it's not like, I mean, it's a profession, yes, but it's not like a big old profession that, like, everyone knows about, because I've talked to plenty of people like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to be an AT, and so a lot of people don't really know what that is. Or even if I say athletic trainer, they're like, oh, okay, but they don't really know what we exactly do. So one of the things I asked him was how this field is growing, and he said, to start off, it sounds small, but in the aspect of things in this profession, it's kind of a big deal, is that by 2021, maybe 2022, that the requirement right now is a bachelor's program, so eventually it's going to be required you to do a master's. Which is a big step, because that's an extra 1-2 years right there of real training, and I think that just shows how much more of a profession it is, and it shows that we need almost not quite as much as a PT, but definitely a lot more training than just an average old, I don't know, coach with specialized training or an ENT, something like that people think we really are. Another thing he brought up was that not every state, but most, except for like, I know it was California for sure, and I think 2 or 3 more states that don't necessarily need some sort of registration to be an AT, but all the other ones do. So within the next year or couple of years, we're hoping, he says, that we're on the right track to having every state be like that, where you need some sort of registration, certification, saying that you went through schooling and you took a test to become an AT of some sort. It's kind of, depending on the state, depends on what you need. So I couldn't tell you exactly what it needs, but like some states might need, you only need bachelor's right now, and then you take a test, boom, you're an AT, or something smaller than that or bigger than that. Like with Oregon, I'm pretty sure it's, you need a bachelor's, go into grad school, take a big old test, get certified. I think there's another test you have to take, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm doing some more research on that, but just the movement towards getting requirements of getting more schooling just says a lot on its own, in my opinion, which I think is a big deal. It may not be seen as a big deal, but personally I think it's a great thing in the long run. To kind of wrap up the interview, I kind of asked him if there's any other advice or knowledge he wanted to share of his own experience, and one of the key things that stood out to me was that he was telling me that there was times he wanted to quit, whether even if it was just like last week or in undergrad school or grad school, that you're gonna want to quit. There's times where you're like, is this really what I want to do? Whether it's because of the money aspect, because if you're in this career, you're not really in it for the money. You're not nearly making as much as a PT would, or maybe it's just you're not getting where you want to be necessarily. You're not doing as well in school, for example, or you haven't gotten a job yet. You're gonna want to quit. But he says there's little moments like an athlete finally gets back after months of dealing with whatever it may be, and they finally get back, and it's little moments like that be like, hey, this is really worth it. I've spent months with this athlete, and now they're finally going back. That really make him not want to quit. And there was times, in undergrad school and grad school where he was like, I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to, and I wanted to quit, but I stuck through it, and I found little things to help me push through. So for me, I think that was I took that at heart the most, because I've been doing some questioning lately, but I think I just gotta keep pushing, find those little moments, and it will definitely keep me going, which is great advice in my opinion. I'm gonna take that to heart probably the rest of my life, or the rest of the time I'm in this career. But yeah, overall I think this interview was really great. I got a lot of insight out of it, got a lot of knowledge, and I'm gonna keep in touch with him, keep going to Douglas to go see him and hang out, get that experience. It'll just help in the long run. It'll just help me understand the environment, the athletes, because definitely different ages make a difference. So I'm really glad I did this interview. Hopefully I can continue to be with him and throughout undergrad and grad school, maybe even internship too, because he brought that up. And yeah, I'm really glad to do this interview, and I'm glad this class allows us to do that. And yeah.